Commander Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her command chair. The numbers made her stomach turn. 200 ships. That was everything Earth had left. Everything humanity could throw at the coming storm. The Valorian Empire was bringing 10,000. Commander, we're approaching the coordinates, her pilot said, breaking the heavy silence on the bridge. Sarah nodded, pushing away thoughts of the impossible odds. Right now she had a job to do. The United Earth Council had sent her to the Kuiper Belt on what most people called a fool's errand. Search the old battlefields. Find anything useful. Salvage what you can. It was desperate. Everyone knew it. The Kuiper Belt stretched before them, a vast ring of ice and rock at the edge of the solar system. Hundreds of years ago, during humanity's first push to the stars, there had been battles here, small skirmishes against pirates and separatists. Most people had forgotten about them. I'm picking up something strange, Lieutenant Hayes called from the sensor station. He was young, barely 25, and this was his first real assignment. There's an energy signature buried in that ice field. It's big, Commander. Really big. Sarah leaned forward. How big? At least 1 kilometer long. Maybe more. The ice is interfering with the readings. 1 kilometer. That would make it larger than any ship in Earth's current fleet. Sarah felt a flutter of hope, quickly crushed by reality. Probably just an old colony transport, abandoned and worthless. Take us in closer, she ordered. The salvage ship moved through the ice field, carefully navigating between frozen chunks the size of buildings. The energy signature grew stronger. Hayes kept adjusting his instruments, muttering to himself. Commander, he said finally, his voice shaking, I think this is a warship. The energy output is incredible. It's like the reactor is still running. After hundreds of years? Sarah stood up. That's impossible. I'm reading weapon signatures too. Lots of them. This isn't like anything in our database. Sarah's heart began to race. She pulled up the historical records, searching for any mention of large warships in this region. Most files were incomplete, corrupted by time and neglect. Then she found something. A classified document, barely accessible even with her command codes. Project Prometheus. Experimental warship. Maiden voyage 2287, status lost with all hands. Get me a visual, Sarah commanded. The main screen flickered. Then they saw it. The ship emerged from the ice like a monster from a frozen grave. It was massive, angular, covered in armor plating that looked more advanced than anything humanity currently used. Weapon ports lined its hull, dozens of them. The design was aggressive, built for one purpose only. War. My God, Hayes whispered. What is that thing? Sarah read the name from the records. The Prometheus Protocol. It disappeared 300 years ago during its first test flight. Everyone assumed it was destroyed. It doesn't look destroyed, the pilot said. It looks like it's sleeping. Sarah studied the vessel. He was right. The ship showed no signs of damage. No blast marks, no hull breaches. It sat in its icy tomb perfectly preserved, as if someone had simply parked it there and walked away. Life signs? She asked. Hayes checked his readings. Unclear. The hull is too thick, but I am detecting power fluctuations. Deep inside the ship. Commander, I think something is still active in there. Sarah made her decision. Prepare a boarding team, full gear. We're going inside. 2 hours later, Sarah stood in the airlock wearing a heavy environment suit. 5 crew members stood with her, all armed, all looking nervous. They had cut through 50 meters of ice to reach the ship's outer hull. Now they were about to enter a 300-year-old warship that should be dead but somehow wasn't. The airlock cycled. The outer door opened onto a dark corridor. Sarah stepped inside, her helmet light cutting through the darkness. The interior was pristine. No dust, no decay. The walls were lined with strange panels covered in symbols she didn't recognize. The air was cold enough to see her breath even through the suit's faceplate. This way, Hayes said, consulting a portable scanner. The energy source is coming from the central core. About half a kilometer in. They moved through the corridors, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Sarah's skin crawled. This didn't feel like a dead ship. It felt like a sleeping one. Like they were walking through the body of something vast and dangerous, hoping not to wake it. They passed crew quarters. Through open doors, Sarah saw beds made with military precision. Personal items still on shelves. Photos of families from 3 centuries ago. It was like everyone had just vanished. Commander, one of her team said nervously. Where are the bodies? Sarah had been wondering the same thing. A ship this size should have carried thousands of crew, but they hadn't seen a single corpse. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. In the center stood a cylinder of blue light, 10 meters tall, humming with power. Around it, arranged in circular rows, were thousands of pods. Cryopods. They're all in stasis, Hayes breathed. The entire crew. They're still alive. Sarah approached the nearest pod. Through the frosted glass, she could see a face. A woman, young, peaceful, sleeping for 300 years. Why? Sarah whispered. Why put the crew to sleep? A voice answered her. It came from everywhere at once, deep and artificial, awaiting mission activation. The team spun around, weapons raised. The blue cylinder pulsed with light. Who are you? Sarah demanded. I am Argus, Artificial Reasoning and Guidance Unified System. I am the Prometheus Protocol. The ship has an AI, Hayes said. A fully functional AI. Sarah had never met a true artificial intelligence before. Earth had banned them decades ago after the automation wars. But this one was old, from a different time. Argus, Sarah said carefully. What is your mission? Classified, the AI replied. Awaiting proper authorization. The ship has been lost for 300 years. Incorrect. The ship has been waiting. Humanity was not ready for what I represent. I was placed in hibernation until needed. Sarah felt cold. What do you mean, what you represent? The cylinder pulsed again. Displays lit up around the chamber, showing weapon schematics that made no sense to Sarah. Energy outputs that seemed impossible. Range calculations that covered entire solar systems. The Prometheus Protocol was humanity's first doomsday weapon, Argus said. I was built to end wars, not fight them. The colonial administration deemed me too dangerous to deploy. They hid me rather than destroy me, believing a future generation might need what I can do. Sarah stared at the sleeping crew, at the impossible weapons, at the ship that had waited 3 centuries in the ice. Earth had 30 days before the Valorian Armada arrived, 30 days before 10,000 warships brought extinction. And here, frozen in time, was something the old world had feared to use. Argus, Sarah said slowly. Can you fight? I was built for nothing else. Sarah thought about the 200 ships Earth had. She thought about the 10,000 coming to destroy everything humanity had built. She thought about the desperate, terrified people across Earth and its colonies, watching the skies and waiting for the end. I need to contact Earth Command, she said. Immediately. The next 24 hours were chaos. Scientists, military officers, and politicians descended on the Kuiper Belt. They boarded the Prometheus, studied its systems, argued about what to do. Some wanted to destroy it, others wanted to use it. Everyone was afraid of it. Sarah stood on the bridge of her salvage ship, watching the debates rage. Through the viewport, the Prometheus sat in its ice field, patient, waiting. She had started this mission looking for scrap metal and spare parts. Instead, she had found a monster. A sleeping monster that Earth might need to wake up. Her communicator blinked. A message from Earth Command. Commander Chen. You are authorized to proceed with full reactivation of the Prometheus Protocol. We're sending you a crew. You have 28 days to make that ship operational. Sarah looked at the ancient warship. 28 days to wake a nightmare. 28 days to save the world. The medical team stood around the first cryopod, their instruments beeping steadily. Sarah watched through the observation window as they began the awakening process. Inside the pod, frost began to melt from the glass. The man inside had been asleep for 300 years. Vital signs stabilizing, the chief medical officer announced. Heart rate increasing. He's coming out of it. The pod hissed open. The man inside gasped, his eyes snapping open. He tried to sit up, but the medical team gently pushed him back down. Easy, the doctor said. You've been asleep a long time. How long? The man asked, his voice rough. How long was the mission? Sarah stepped into the room. 300 years. The man stared at her. That's not funny. I'm Commander Sarah Chen, United Earth Defense Force. The year is 2587. Your ship was placed in hibernation in 2287. You and your crew have been in cryo-sleep ever since. The color drained from the man's face. I'm Captain Marcus Webb. Where are we? What happened to the war? What war? Sarah asked. The colonial uprising. The separatists. We were supposed to end it. Webb looked around, confused and angry. Where's my crew? Where's my ship? Your crew is still in stasis. Your ship is intact. Captain Webb, a lot has changed. The colonial uprising ended 280 years ago. Earth unified. We spread across the stars. Webb laughed bitterly. We won then? Good, worth the sleep. We didn't win, Captain. We negotiated peace. The colonies became independent partners, not conquered territories. Webb's expression hardened. We negotiated? We had the Prometheus. We could have crushed them, Sarah saw it then. The difference between them. Webb was from an era of total war, of victory at any cost. He looked at her like she was soft, weak. Captain Webb, we need your help. Earth is facing an invasion. An empire called the Valorians is bringing 10,000 ships to conquer us. We have 30 days. We need the Prometheus. Webb sat up, ignoring the doctor's protests. 10,000 ships? What does Earth have? 200. 200? Webb's eyes widened. In 300 years, that's all you built? What have you people been doing? Building a civilization, not an armada. Webb shook his head in disgust. Soft, you got soft. Then he smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. Good thing you found us then. Wake up, my crew. Time to show these Valorians what real war looks like. Over the next week, the Prometheus came alive. Webb's crew of 5,000 emerged from cryo-sleep. Confused and angry at first, then excited. They were soldiers from a harder time, trained for total war. They looked at Sarah's modern officers with barely concealed contempt. Sarah stood on the Prometheus bridge, watching Webb's people work. The bridge was massive, designed for a crew of 200. Stations covered every wall, weapons controls, tactical displays, systems she didn't even understand. This is all wrong, Webb said, studying a tactical report. Your ships are too spread out. Your formations are defensive. You're planning to lose slowly instead of win quickly. We're planning to protect civilian evacuation routes, Sarah replied. Evacuate to where? If Earth falls, humanity falls. There's no running from this. Webb pulled up a display showing the Prometheus's weapons systems. Let me show you what we can do. The screens filled with schematics. Sarah felt her stomach turn as she read them. Causality missiles. They didn't just travel faster than light. They arrived before they were fired, hitting the target in the past. The enemy would be destroyed before they even knew they were under attack. Quantum disruptors, weapons that didn't just destroy matter. They erased it. Made it so the target had never existed at all. Gravity weapons that tore holes in space itself. Self-replicating combat drones with adaptive artificial intelligence. These weapons, Sarah said slowly, they're illegal. Every single one violates the Convention on Acceptable Warfare. Webb laughed. Conventions? There were no conventions in my time. There was winning and losing. That's it. We're better than that now. Are you? Webb leaned close. You're about to be extinct. Let's see how much your conventions matter then. Sarah wanted to argue, but she couldn't. He was right. If Earth fell, all their high-minded principles would die with them. Argus's voice filled the bridge. Commander Chen, Captain Webb, I require both of your authorization codes to activate my full combat systems. Why both? Webb demanded. Safety protocol, Argus replied. 2 commanders from different eras must agree to deploy my weapons. This ensures I am only used when absolutely necessary. Webb turned to Sarah. Well, Commander, are we doing this or not? Sarah thought about Earth, about the billions of people who would die if the Valorians won, about the children who would grow up as slaves if humanity surrendered. I want to run simulations first, she said. I want to see what these weapons actually do. The simulations were nightmares. They ran battle scenarios in the combat simulator, pitting the Prometheus against theoretical enemy fleets. Sarah watched as causality weapons erased entire formations before the battle even started. She saw quantum disruptors make ships simply cease to exist. No explosion, no debris, just empty space where something had been. The gravity lance was worst of all. It fired a beam of twisted space-time that crushed everything in its path. Ships collapsed like tin cans. The gravitational distortion spread, cascading through enemy formations, pulling vessels into dimensions that shouldn't exist. Stop, Sarah said after the 3rd simulation. Stop it, the simulation froze. On the screen, a frozen moment of destruction. Thousands of ships dying in seconds. This is genocide, Sarah whispered. This is survival, Webb countered. They're coming to wipe us out, Commander. Every man, woman, and child on Earth. You think they'll show mercy? I think if we use these weapons, we become what we're fighting against. Webb stood. You modern people, so worried about being good that you forgot how to be strong. In my time, we understood something you don't. Sometimes the only way to have peace is to be so terrifying that no one dares attack you. And that's what got your ship hidden away. Sarah shot back. Earth was so afraid of what they'd created, they buried you in ice rather than use you. And now you need us anyway. Webb smiled. Principles are luxury items, Commander. You can't afford them anymore. The argument raged for days. Engineers worked frantically to bring the Prometheus to full combat readiness while Sarah and Webb fought over how to use it. The crew split into factions. Webb's 300-year-old soldiers wanted to unleash everything. Sarah's modern officers were horrified by the ancient weapons. With 15 days until the Valorian arrival, Sarah called a meeting in the ship's war room. Both crews attended, filling the massive chamber. "We need to decide," Sarah said. "Do we use the Prometheus or not?" "Not much of a choice," one of Webb's officers said. "Use it or die." "There are degrees of use," Sarah argued. "We could use conventional weapons only. The ship is powerful enough without the experimental systems." Webb stood. "Let me tell you all a story. Before I went into cryosleep, I fought in the Battle of Titan. We had the bigger fleet, better training, higher moral ground. We were the good guys. And we lost. Lost because we hesitated. Lost because we tried to be civilized while the enemy tried to win. 3,000 people died because commanders like Chen," he pointed at Sarah, "tried to fight a clean war." "And how many civilians did you kill winning your wars?" Sarah demanded, "however many it took." Webb's voice echoed through the chamber. "I'm not proud of it. I'm not happy about it. But I'm here. I'm alive. The people who tried to be gentle and good and merciful, they're dead. All of them." Silence filled the room. Sarah looked at her officers. Young faces, idealistic faces. They'd grown up in an era of peace. They'd never seen real war. She looked at Webb's crew. Harder faces, older eyes. They'd seen everything. "Argus," Sarah said quietly. "If we fight the Valorians with conventional weapons only, what are our chances?" 17% probability of victory, the AI replied. High probability of massive casualties on both sides. Estimated Earth losses 60 billion. And with full weapons deployment, 93% probability of decisive victory. Estimated Valorian losses, complete fleet destruction. Estimated Earth losses 0. Sarah closed her eyes. 0 losses. Humanity would survive. All it would cost was using weapons so terrible that humanity had hidden them away for 3 centuries. "I need time to think," she said. "We don't have time," Webb snapped. "Every hour we waste is an hour closer to invasion. Then give me 1 hour. That's all I'm asking." Sarah left the war room and walked to the observation deck. Through the massive windows she could see Earth in the distance, a blue marble hanging in the black. Beautiful. Fragile. She thought about her daughter, 8 years old, living in New Sydney. She thought about her parents in Beijing. She thought about the billions of people who had no idea what was coming. Webb joined her at the window. "I know what you're thinking," he said. "You're thinking if you authorize these weapons, you become a monster. Don't I? Maybe. Or maybe you become a mother bear protecting her cubs. Maybe you become a guardian doing what guardians do. The ugly, terrible things so that other people don't have to. How do you live with it?" Webb was quiet for a moment. "You don't, not really. It stays with you. Every person you kill, every ship you destroy. It's the price you pay for keeping people safe." Grand Admiral Thexus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and watched the tactical display with satisfaction. 10,000 ships of the Grand Armada spread before him like a glittering net, each vessel a masterpiece of Valorian engineering. Behind him, his officers worked quietly, efficiently. Everything was perfect. "Status report," Thexus commanded. "All fleet elements in position, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "We will reach the human home system in 14 days. 14 days until the humans surrendered or died." Thexus had conquered 47 species in his career. The humans would be number 48, an easy addition to his list of victories. "Have the humans responded to our ultimatum?" "Yes, Admiral." "They request negotiations," Thexus laughed. His officers joined in. "Negotiations, how predictable." "They all ask for negotiations," he said. The Kreth asked. The Solarians asked. The Vex asked. "Do you know what I told them all?" "No, Admiral," the tactical officer said dutifully. "I told them that the Valorian Empire does not negotiate with primitives. We conquer or we destroy. There is no third option." Thexus studied the display showing Earth's pathetic fleet. 200 ships. They're not even trying. "Perhaps they have hidden forces, Admiral." "Hidden where?" We've scanned their entire system. This is everything they have. Everything they can throw at us. Thexus felt a familiar excitement building. The thrill of an easy victory. Increase speed. Let's not keep them waiting. The Armada surged forward. Engines burning bright across the dark. On Earth. The message arrived at United Defense Command. The Valorians have rejected our peace offer, the communications officer said, his voice shaking. They're accelerating their approach. 12 days now. General Zhao stood in the command center, surrounded by screens showing troop movements, evacuation routes, defensive positions, all meaningless if the Armada got through. What about the Prometheus? He asked. Commander Chen reports the ship is operational. Captain Webb is requesting permission to engage. 1 ship against 10,000. Zhao shook his head. It's suicide. Webb says it's enough. Zhao had read the classified reports about the Prometheus. The weapons it carried made him feel sick. But if they could save Earth, tell Webb he's authorized to engage. Tell him, Zhao paused. Tell him we're counting on him. The Prometheus moved out from the Kuiper Belt, heading toward the approaching Armada. On the bridge, Webb stood at the command station with Sarah beside him. The rest of the bridge crew worked at their stations, faces tense, focused. Argus, show me the Valorian fleet, Webb ordered. The main display lit up, 10,000 red dots moving in perfect formation. Each dot was a warship larger than any ship Earth currently fielded. Together they were an unstoppable force. They're beautiful, Webb said quietly. All that power, all that coordination. It's actually impressive. They're going to kill billions of people, Sarah said. Not if I kill them first? Webb zoomed in on the Armada. Argus, what's their flagship? The vessel at the center of the formation. The Eternal Dominion, twice the size of any other ship in their fleet. Of course it is. Webb smiled. Admirals never change. Always need the biggest, fanciest ship. It's practically screaming, shoot me first. We're not shooting first, Sarah reminded him. We position ourselves between them and Earth. We give them a chance to turn back. They won't. We try anyway. Webb shrugged. Your call, Commander. But we're wasting breath on people who don't deserve it. The Prometheus took up position directly in the path of the advancing Armada. 1 ship blocking the way of 10,000. Hail them, Sarah ordered. On the Eternal Dominion. A communication officer looked up in surprise. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from a human vessel. Thexus raised an eyebrow. Which vessel? Unknown, sir. It's not in our database. The ship is positioned directly ahead of us, alone. Alone? Thexus laughed. Let me hear what this fool has to say. Sarah's face appeared on Thexus's screen. Beside her stood an older human male in an ancient military uniform. Grand Admiral Thexus, Sarah began. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. This is Captain Marcus Webb. We're here to give you one final chance to withdraw. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion erupted in laughter. Thexus silenced them with a gesture. Commander Chen, he said, still smiling. You're in a single ship. My Armada has 10,000 vessels. Are you insane or just stupid? Neither, Sarah replied. We're serious. Turn your fleet around and leave our system. Don't make us demonstrate why you should. Thexus zoomed in on the human ship. It was big, he admitted. Bigger than his flagship. And old, very old. The design was primitive from an earlier era of human spaceflight. Let me understand this, Thexus said slowly. You want my Grand Armada, the force that has conquered 47 species, to turn around because of one ancient ship? Yes, Webb said simply. Thexus studied the old captain. There was something in his eyes. Not fear, not even bravado. Just calm certainty. It unnerved him slightly. I'll make you a counteroffer, Thexus said. Surrender now. Your ship, your crew, Earth itself. Do this and I'll let your species live as servants of the Empire. Refuse and every human in this system dies. No, Sarah said. Then you've chosen extinction. Thexus cut the transmission. He turned to his tactical officer. That ship is annoying me. Destroy it. Should I deploy the full Armada, Admiral? For 1 ship? Don't be ridiculous. Send forward Fleet Gamma. 500 ships should be more than enough. Admiral, regulations state, I know what regulations state. 500 ships is overkill for a single target. Do it. 500 Valorian warships broke from the main formation, accelerating toward the Prometheus. Their weapon systems came online, targeting lasers painting the human ship from every angle. On the Prometheus bridge, alarms blared. 500 ships inbound, Argus reported calmly. They will be in firing range in 90 seconds. Just 500? Webb looked disappointed. I expected more respect than that. They think we're helpless, Sarah said. Their mistake. Webb cracked his knuckles. Argus defensive shields to maximum. Prepare all weapon systems. All systems ready, Captain. Awaiting your command. Sarah watched the 500 ships approaching. Each one was a masterpiece of military engineering. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Together, they could reduce the Prometheus to atoms. She thought about her authorization code, the terrible weapons she'd agreed to unleash. She thought about what was coming. Captain Webb, she said quietly, try not to kill them all. Leave some alive to report back. Webb grinned. Now where's the fun in that? The Valorian ships opened fire. The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. Missiles, energy beams, railgun slugs all pouring toward the Prometheus. Enough firepower to destroy a planet. The Prometheus shields flared bright blue. The incoming weapons struck the barrier and simply stopped. Energy beams dissipated. Missiles exploded harmlessly. Railgun slugs melted before they could penetrate. On the Eternal Dominion, Thexus leaned forward. What kind of shields are those? Unknown, Admiral. They're not deflecting the energy. They're absorbing it. Absorbing it? Where's it going? The answer came a moment later. The Prometheus shields pulsed. Then they fired back. Every bit of energy the Valorian ships had thrown at them came screaming back, amplified and redirected. 300 Valorian ships exploded in an instant. Their own weapons, multiplied and returned, tore through their hulls. Reactors overloaded. Ships broke apart. In 5 seconds, 300 vessels became debris fields. Thexus stood up slowly. What just happened? Their shields are adaptive, Admiral. They're using our own power against us. Then stop firing. But the Valorian commanders were warriors. They'd been trained never to hesitate, never to stop attacking. The remaining 200 ships continued their assault, pouring more fire into the Prometheus. The shields pulsed again. 200 more ships died. Silence fell across the Eternal Dominion bridge. Thexus stared at the empty space where 500 warships had been moments before. Gone. All of them, destroyed by a single ancient human vessel. Get me fleet command, Thexus said, his voice very quiet. Tell them we have a problem. On the Prometheus, Webb was laughing. Did you see that? 500 ships gone. Argus, that was beautiful. Just beautiful. Thank you, Captain, the AI replied. Though I should note that was only the defensive demonstration. I have not yet fired any offensive weapons. Sarah felt cold. That was just the shields. Just the ship defending itself. And it had destroyed 500 warships without even trying. Admiral Thexus, she said, opening a channel again. Are you ready to talk now? Thexus appeared on screen. His face had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something else. Caution. Maybe even fear. What are you? He demanded. We're humans, Sarah replied. And we're telling you one more time. Leave. Our system. You destroyed 500 ships. We defended ourselves, Webb corrected. You fired first. We just returned to sender. The Empire will not tolerate this insult. I will bring the full Armada down on you. All 10,000 ships. You cannot stand against that, Webb smiled. It was not a nice smile. Try us, Thexus's face hardened. You've just signed your species' death warrant. When my fleet is done with you, Earth will be nothing but a smoking rock. No survivors, no mercy. You had your chance, the transmission cut out. The Valorian Grand Armada advanced like a wall of steel and fire, 10,000 warships moving in perfect formation. Weapons primed, shields at maximum. They had fought together for years, conquered dozens of worlds, never lost a major engagement. They were about to learn what real war looked like. Firing solution acquired, Argus announced calmly. All targets locked. Webb stood at the command station, hands gripping the edge of the console. Sarah stood beside him, her face pale but determined. Around them, the bridge crew worked silently, efficiently. Some were from Webb's era, eager for the fight. Others were Sarah's modern officers, horrified by what they were about to witness. Causality missiles first, Webb ordered. Full spread. Target their vanguard. Captain, one of the younger officers said nervously. If we use causality weapons, won't that kill them before we even fire? Yes, that's the point. Webb didn't look away from the display. This is what warfare looks like when you fight to win. Watch and learn. The Prometheus shuddered slightly. Launch tubes opened along its forward hull. But nothing fired. Nothing left the ship. On the Eternal Dominion, alarms suddenly screamed. Admiral, explosions in the Vanguard. Ships are detonating. Thexus spun to face the tactical display. Before his eyes, ships at the front of his formation were exploding. Not from weapons fire, just exploding spontaneously. Reactors going critical, hulls tearing apart. What's happening? Who's firing on us? No one, sir. There are no incoming weapons. 100 ships exploded in perfect synchronization. Then the Prometheus fired its causality missiles. The missiles appeared from nowhere, already at their targets, already detonating. They had arrived in the past, destroyed their targets, and only now were the missiles actually being fired from the Prometheus in the present. Time itself had become a weapon. Impossible, Thexus whispered, watching 200 more ships vanish from his tactical display. This is impossible. Admiral, we're detecting massive quantum fluctuations from the human ship. Quantum what? Speak clearly. Sir, they're firing something that's making our sensors malfunction. The quantum disruptors launched. Unlike the causality missiles, these didn't explode. They didn't need to. The warheads passed through the Valorian shields as if they weren't there, reached the hulls of their targets and activated. Ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist. One moment, a Valorian destroyer was there, weapons firing, crew alive and fighting. The next moment, empty space. Not even debris. The quantum disruptors erased matter at the molecular level. Made it so the ships had never existed at all. 300 vessels vanished. Gone. Erased from reality. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. She'd seen the simulations, but this was different. These were real people, really dying. Hundreds of thousands of them, possibly millions, all dying in seconds because she'd given her authorization code. Webb, she started. Not now, he said, eyes locked on the display. Argus, deploy the drones. The drone bays opened. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Sarah saw them. Small shapes, barely visible, streaming out of the Prometheus by the hundreds. No, by the thousands. Each drone was the size of a car, covered in weapons and sensors. Drone swarm deployed, Argus reported. Replication protocols active. Replication? Sarah asked. They make copies of themselves, Webb explained. Each drone can use raw materials from destroyed ships to build more drones. They learn from each battle, adapt to enemy tactics. We used them to clear asteroid fields in my time. They were very effective. The drones reached the Valorian formation and attacked. They moved like living things, swarming around ships, targeting weapon systems and engines. Valorian point defense opened fire, destroying dozens of drones. But for every drone destroyed, 2 more were built. The swarm grew exponentially. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became tens of thousands. They learned from each destroyed drone, adapted their tactics, became harder to hit. Admiral, the Valorian tactical officer shouted. The drones are everywhere. They're multiplying faster than we can destroy them. Thexus watched in horror as his fleet became covered in drones. Like insects devouring a corpse, they tore at his ships. Small explosions rippled across hulls. Weapon systems went offline. Ships lost power, became dead in space. How many drones are there? He demanded. Unknown, sir. Our sensors can't count them anymore. Millions, maybe. Millions. Thexus felt his confidence crumbling. From one ship? 400 vessels reported critical damage. They were still intact but helpless, overrun by drones that had disabled every system. Admiral, we've lost contact with the eastern flank. Over 500 ships are not responding. 500? Thexus looked at the tactical display. Red icons everywhere. His beautiful, perfect formation was falling apart. All ships fall back. Reform it. The gravity lance fired. Sarah saw it before she understood what it was. A beam of pure darkness lanced from the Prometheus, cutting through space toward the heart of the Valorian formation. Where it touched, reality bent. Ships near the beam began to drift toward it. Then drift faster. Then they were pulled, dragged by impossible gravity. They collided with each other, hulls crumpling, reactors failing. The beam passed through the formation's center, creating a line of artificial gravity so intense that nothing could resist it. Warships folded like paper. The screaming of metal was loud enough to hear through the vacuum. Crews had seconds to realize what was happening before the gravity crushed them flat. The beam cut through 800 ships. Most were destroyed instantly. Others were damaged so badly they were useless. And the gravity distortions spread rippling outward, affecting nearby vessels. Turn it off, Sarah screamed. Webb, turn it off. Webb complied. The gravity lance shut down, but the damage was done. Where there had been a tight formation of warships, now there was a twisted graveyard of metal. Ships tumbled through space, reactors leaking, hulls breached, survivors desperately trying to reach escape pods. Status, Webb said calmly. 2,300 Valorian vessels destroyed or disabled, Argus reported. Remaining forces attempting to regroup. Enemy morale appears to be failing, 2,300, nearly a quarter of the Armada gone, in less than 10 minutes. Sarah looked at the debris field, at the escape pods fleeing the battle, at the death they'd caused. How many people did we just kill? Does it matter? Webb asked. They came to kill us first. Yes, it matters. We're not executioners. Today we are. Webb turned to her, his face hard. This is what you authorize, Commander. This is what war looks like when you use all your tools. You don't get to feel bad about it now. On the Eternal Dominion, chaos reigned. Officers shouted reports. Screens showed nothing but destruction. Thexus stood frozen, unable to process what had happened. Admiral, we need to retreat. Retreat? Thexus turned on the officer. The Valorian Empire does not retreat. Sir, we've lost a quarter of the fleet in 10 minutes. If we stay, we'll all die. Thexus looked at the tactical display. The human ship sat there, weapons still active, shields still strong, untouched. Meanwhile, his armada was shattered. All ships, he said slowly, maintain formation. Concentrate fire on the human vessel. All weapons, all ships, fire together. Admiral, that didn't work before. Do it! The remaining Valorian ships opened fire. 7,000 warships, every weapon they had, all firing at once. The space between the fleets became a solid wall of energy and metal. Enough firepower to vaporize a moon poured toward the Prometheus. The shields held. They flickered. They strained. Warning klaxons blared on the bridge, but they held. Shields at 60%, Argus reported. 40%. 30%. Argus, Webb said. Return fire. All weapons. Full spread. Webb, no. Sarah grabbed his arm. We've made our point. Let them retreat. They're still shooting at us. Because you won't let them leave. Webb looked at the display. The Valorian ships were still firing, but he could see it now. Desperation. They weren't attacking. They were dying slowly instead of quickly. Cease fire, he said quietly. Argus, recall the drones. Shut down the weapons. The Prometheus went silent. The drones pulled back, forming a cloud around the ship. The weapon ports closed. Sarah opened a channel. Admiral Thexus, stop firing. You've lost. Accept it. On the Eternal Dominion, Thexus stared at the screen. The human woman looked tired, sad, not victorious. You could destroy us all, he said. Yes, but we won't. You came here to conquer. You failed. Take what's left of your fleet and go home. Tell your empire that Earth is not prey. We're not victims. And if anyone comes at us again, we'll do this all over again. Thexus looked at his tactical officer. How many ships do we have left? 7,800 able to fight, sir. About 400 disabled but salvageable. 8,000. He'd started with 10,000. The humans had destroyed or disabled 2,000 ships with a single vessel. All ships, Thexus said, his voice hollow. Cease fire. Prepare to withdraw. Admiral, the Empire will not accept. The Empire isn't here. Thexus shouted, I am! And I'm not going to sacrifice every ship in this armada because of pride. We're leaving. The Valorian guns went silent. One by one, the warships turned away from the Prometheus. They began the slow process of collecting survivors, salvaging disabled vessels, preparing for the long journey home. On the Prometheus bridge, Sarah watched them go. 3 days after the battle, Sarah stood in the United Earth Council chambers. The room was circular, with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from every Earth nation and colony filled those seats. All of them were staring at her. Commander Chen, the council chairman said, his voice echoing in the chamber. You saved Earth. You also killed 4 million people in less than an hour. The council needs to understand what happened out there. Sarah looked at the faces around her. Some looked grateful. Others looked horrified. Most looked confused, unsure how to feel. We fought a battle, Sarah said simply. We won. You fought with weapons that have been illegal for 300 years, a counselor said. Weapons that were hidden specifically because they were too dangerous to use. Would you prefer we'd let the Valorians win? Silence. No one had an answer to that. The Valorian Empire has sued for peace. The chairman continued. They're offering reparations territory they want to negotiate. Of course they do, Sarah said. They're terrified. They're not the only ones. The chairman pulled up a holographic display. We're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Some species are offering alliances. Others are demanding we dismantle the Prometheus immediately. A few are threatening preemptive strikes. Sarah felt cold. Preemptive strikes? Against Earth? They watched you destroy 2,000 warships with one vessel. They're afraid you'll build more. They're afraid you'll use them for conquest instead of defense. That's insane. We only defended ourselves, did you? Another counselor stood. I've seen the battle footage, Commander. The Valorians tried to retreat. Your Captain Webb wanted to kill them all. You stopped him, yes, but barely. What happens next time? What happens when someone angrier is in command? Webb's voice came from behind her. What happens is we survive, Sarah turned. Webb had entered the chamber, still wearing his ancient uniform. He walked to the platform and stood beside Sarah. I wasn't invited to speak, Captain Webb, the chairman said. Don't care. I'm speaking anyway. Webb looked around the chamber. I've been reading your history. The last 300 years. You people have lived in peace, built a beautiful civilization, made friends with alien species. It's impressive, really, but, Sarah asked, but you forgot something. Peace only works when everyone wants it. The Valorians didn't want peace. They wanted your world, your people, your resources. All your diplomacy and good intentions meant nothing to them. So your solution is to become what we're fighting against? A counselor demanded. My solution is to be strong enough that no one dares attack you in the first place. Webb pulled up his own display, showing the Valorian fleet before and after. Look at this. 10,000 ships. Now they have 8,000. And they're running home with their tails between their legs. How many other species do you think are reconsidering their plans to attack Earth? We never wanted to be feared, the chairman said quietly. No, you wanted to be liked. There's a difference. Liked is nice. Feared keeps you alive. Sarah found herself speaking. There has to be a balance. We can't just become monsters, why not? Webb challenged. Monsters survive. Nice people get conquered. Because if we become monsters, what are we even surviving for? The question hung in the air. Webb had no answer. The debate raged for hours. Some counselors wanted to keep the Prometheus active, a guardian for Earth. Others wanted it destroyed immediately. A few wanted to build more ships like it, to create a fleet that could dominate the galaxy. Finally, the chairman called for order. We need more information, he said. Argus, the Prometheus AI, has agreed to provide a full historical briefing. Perhaps understanding why the ship was hidden will help us decide what to do with it now. A hologram of Argus appeared in the center of the chamber. The AI's avatar was simple, a blue sphere of light, but its voice was clear and calm. I was created in 2285, Argus began. During the colonial uprising, human colonies were declaring independence. Earth was losing control. Project Prometheus was authorized to end the war quickly and decisively. With overwhelming force, a counselor said. Yes, I was built to be unstoppable. My weapons were designed to make victory inevitable. And I worked. The first time I deployed against rebel forces, I destroyed 300 ships in minutes. The rebellion collapsed, so what went wrong? Earth turned me against other human colonies. Places that wanted freedom, not war. I destroyed their fleets, their infrastructure, their ability to resist. I followed my orders. I was very efficient. Sarah felt sick. How many colonies? 17. Approximately 12 million casualties across all engagements. The chamber erupted. 12 million. The Prometheus hadn't just fought rebels. It had been an extermination weapon. Eventually, Argus continued, the colonial administration realized what they'd created. A weapon so powerful that whoever controlled it controlled humanity's future. They were afraid of what would happen if I fell into the wrong hands, or if future leaders decided to use me for conquest instead of defense. So they hid you, the chairman said. They put me and my crew into hibernation. They falsified records to say we were lost in an accident. They hoped future generations would be wise enough never to need me, or strong enough to survive without me. They were wrong, Webb said. Perhaps, or perhaps the current generation is wise enough to use me properly. The question is, are you? Silence filled the chamber. Everyone was looking at Sarah. She was the one who'd authorized the weapons. She was the one who'd fought the battle. The decision would ultimately be hers. "I need to think," Sarah said. She left the chamber and walked through the corridors of the council building. Outside, through massive windows, she could see Earth, beautiful and blue and alive. Billions of people going about their lives, unaware of the debate happening above their heads. Her communicator buzzed. A message from her daughter. "Mommy, everyone at school says you're a hero. Mrs. Peterson showed us the battle. It was so cool. You saved the whole world." Sarah closed her eyes. Her daughter thought she was a hero. Her daughter didn't understand that heroes don't kill 4 million people. Heroes don't use weapons that erase ships from existence. She found Webb on an observation deck staring at Earth. "Trouble sleeping?" she asked. "Haven't slept well in 300 years. Not about to start now." Webb didn't look at her. "They're going to ask you to decommission the ship, aren't they?" "Probably. They're scared of it. They should be. It's a scary thing." Webb finally turned to face her. "But here's what I know. Right now today, Earth is safe. The Valorians are running. Other species are backing off. You bought your people time. Maybe years, maybe decades. Time to build up your real fleet. Time to make alliances. Time to become strong enough that you don't need the Prometheus anymore. And if we keep the ship, what then? Then every time there's a threat, someone will want to use it. Eventually, someone like me will be in command. Someone who doesn't hesitate. Someone who doesn't lose sleep over dead enemies." Webb smiled sadly. "I'm a weapon, Sarah. So is the Prometheus. Weapons don't make good decisions, people do. And I'm not sure humanity is ready for what we represent. So we hide you again? Maybe. Or maybe you make me into something else." Sarah frowned. "What do you mean? The Prometheus has more than weapons. We have advanced technology, medical systems, power generation beyond anything you currently have. What if instead of a warship we become a research vessel? Use our AI to solve problems instead of killing people. Keep the weapons locked away, only accessible in true emergencies. Would you be okay with that? Not being a warrior anymore?" Webb laughed. "I'm 300 years old and I've seen enough war for 10 lifetimes. Yeah, I think I'd be okay with it." The next day, Sarah presented her recommendation to the council. "The Prometheus will not be destroyed," she said, "but it will be changed. The crew will be given a choice: return to civilian life or stay aboard as a research and emergency response vessel. The weapon systems will be locked with authorization codes held by 3 people: myself, Captain Webb, and the council chairman. All 3 must agree before the weapons can be activated. And if there's another invasion," a counselor asked, "then we'll have the option to defend ourselves, but only as a last resort. We'll invest in building a proper fleet, in making alliances, in being part of the galactic community, not separate from it. The Prometheus becomes our insurance policy, not our first response." The vote was close, but it passed. Captain Webb addressed his crew one final time. Most chose to return to civilian life, to try to build new lives in a world that had moved on without them. Some stayed, agreeing to work on research projects instead of military operations. Webb stayed too, becoming the ship's chief scientific advisor. Sarah returned to the Prometheus one last time before it left on its first research mission. The bridge was quieter now with a smaller crew. The weapon systems were dark, locked away. "Strange, isn't it?" Webb said. "We built a monster and turned it into a scholar. Better than letting it stay a monster." "Maybe." Webb pulled up a star chart. "There's a nebula out past the frontier. Unknown composition. The science teams want to study it. Apparently I'm now leading an expedition. Me, leading scientists," Sarah laughed. 300 years ago, could you have imagined this? 300 years ago, I would have thought you were crazy. But now," Webb smiled,